All right, here we go. I am Vince, the host of the RR Show. We want to thank Andy for all that he's done with the program, and we got one more episode with Andy here from r/TIFU, user Benarbra. TIFU by not bothering to check what flour I've been using for 5+ years.
So I didn't realize this fuck up until today. It's kind of minor, but I feel so dumb because of it. I'm an American living in Japan. I've studied Japanese for like 15 years. Lucky enough to have classes available in junior high school and then majored in it in university. And I've worked here for over 5 years. While I've been studying Japanese for a while before coming here for my job, I'd never lived in Japan before, and obviously there was a big learning curve when I first moved, especially with the little things that you don't learn in a classroom. Aside from studying Japanese, my other hobbies included cooking and baking, which often requires flour. In the US, I just use all-purpose flour, but of course that's not what it's called in Japan. They categorize and label flours differently here. So, when going to the grocery store for the first time, do you think I looked at the shelf of assorted flours with various unfamiliar kanji and words and thought, maybe I should whip out my phone with its infinite sources of information, including Google Translate, and an English to Japan dictionary app, and figure out what the fuck all these types of flour are before I try buying some? Nope. I looked at the package art that conveniently includes pictures of the sorts of cooking it would be used in and discern that, this one has pictures of bread on it. Must be bread flour. Don't need that. Oh, this one has tempura, cake, and noodles on it. That's quite a random assortment. Must be all-purpose, considering all the various purposes it seems to be used for. And immediately bought the bag with what I perceived to be the most of all-purpose of 3 or 4 varieties I saw before me. Ever since that day, for 5+ years, I've bought the same kind, without a thought about the actual words on the package, always going off of the art on it instead. The thing is, sometimes when I've made baked goods, they'd come out too soft. Something would always be a little off with my brownies or cookies, and they'd just fall apart, just slightly too easily. I've also wanted to get into pizza and bread making. The handful of times I've tried making bread from recipes that use AP flour, it's just never turned out right. The dough never held together quite enough, no matter how much or how little I needed it, and the texture always seemed wrong. Recently, I've started following r/pizza, and just been really inspired to try making my own pizza, especially since there's no delivery pizza or decent pizza shops in my area. I bought a silicone baking mat that would make kneading a much easier task than on my shitty unsealed wooden table. So the overnight instead of my usual easy no-knead same-night pizza dough recipe, I decided to try a small-scale version of Ken Forkish's one-day overnight pizza dough. Long story short, the pizza was still tasty, but the dough was so soft it stretched too thin and tore easily and felt like it hadn't developed any gluten at all despite 24 hours of rise and rest. It tastes fine, but what the hell is wrong with my dough? Is it too cold in my house? Did I knead it wrong? Are my measurements fucked? Why is it falling apart so easily? It was plaguing my thoughts so much that I woke up still thinking about it when my alarm went off this morning. So I did what I should have done 5 years ago and googled what type of flour are available in Japan. I found the answer immediately in English. I found out there are 3 main types. There's Hakuriko, which literally means weak power flour. Why is it called that? Because there are 3 types, it has the lowest amount of gluten, hence why it's used for cakes and tempura batter, where you don't need much gluten. It's usually translated to cake/pastry flour. Then there's Chorikiko, aka medium power flour, which is the mid-tier of gluten percentage, and according to the blog I found, is the equivalent to AP flour. Last is the highest one. Oh, strong power flour! Being the bread flour that I'd recognize because it has a picture of bread on it. I double-checked the bag of what I thought was AP, and sure enough, it was the weak cake flour. That's why my dough has always been too soft. That's why my cookies came out not chewy enough. And that's why my bread never turned out well. 5 years! I thought I was bad at kneading or something, but it turns out I just needed to open Google for 5 fucking seconds. I did buy a bag of the medium flour after work and have a batch of pizza dough resting to cook tomorrow. And here's hoping I can make better baked goods from now on. Whoever submitted stories full of Japanese words, fuck you. Seriously, don't start making a habit of this, because just don't, alright? Just no. Hosted by Haberee. Today I fucked up by texting the wrong number and getting a call from the police. This actually happened last year, but I thought I'd share anyway. What happened is that in July of last year, I, 26 female, began to foster cats under a rescue group, and as part of that process, you contact people who inquire on the cats to arrange playdates. Well, normally I'll call the person first, and then if they don't answer, I'll send them a text message. One of my kittens, Bella, had gotten an inquiry, and the rescue group passed it on and asked me to contact them. I gave the couple inquiring on Bella a call and got no response, and there was no voice recording for the voicemail, so I shot them a text message saying, "Hi so-and-so, my name's OP and I'm Bella's foster carer. The charity organisation let me know you were interested in the little one and I was wondering if you'd like to do a video chat sometime to meet her." Note, we were doing video chats at the time because we were in lockdown. Then 2 days later, I got a message from the rescue group organiser telling me that the couple who had inquired hadn't heard from me but were very keen. So I checked the number I had sent the message to, and it was off by 1 digit. I contacted the right number and the couple were lovely and adopted the cat very promptly. They were extremely delightful, and it was the perfect home for Bella. However, 2 more days later, I got a call from an odd-looking number. When I answered it, I found out it was the Tasmanian police. The person I sent the first message to saw my message and got concerned that I was fostering children and trafficking them. Because nowhere in my message did I mention that Bella was a cat. Thankfully, it all got sorted out very quickly, and I had plenty of evidence showing that Bella was in fact indeed a cat that I was fostering through a cat rescue group. But I can honestly say, that was never a call I thought I would get. I'm glad the first person contacted the police though, as they could sort it out in case it was someone nefarious. Better to check innocent things than dismiss evil things. You know, I thought that story was going in a slightly different direction. I thought the police were getting called with a report of being texted from a brothel or a prostitute. You could see why I thought that, right? From King Pigeon 848. Today I fucked up explaining what a parable was to my boss. So I live in the south of the USA, right smack dab in the middle of the Bible Belt. But I, myself, never really bought into the whole Christian beliefs. That being said, I was raised up with knowledge on the Bible and have actually read the whole thing, in its entirety. Well, I'm now an adult, got a job in a factory and all that. Well, most of my co-workers, especially my boss, are very Christian. So today in the break, somehow my friends and I were talking about the Bible. Someone said that I didn't have the right to talk because I didn't even believe in it. To which I replied, I mean, I guess, but I probably know more about it than you, even if I don't believe it. And so he started kinda quizzing me about different things in the Bible. Meanwhile, my boss walks into the break room and is at the vending machines listening. At a certain point, my friend asked me if I knew about the unforgiving servant. I said, of course, it's a parable in the Bible, blah, 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 blah. And my boss interjects by saying, hey, what's a parable? Now, keep in mind, this guy isn't like head of the factory or anything, and is only like 1 league above me in the chain of command. And this guy's, pretty dumb, to be honest. Not even sure he went through middle school. He's also the type of Christian who's a total hypocrite. Like hell, he'll talk about how much he loves God and then wish death on all the gays. Total garbo. Anyway, so I explained to him that a parable was a story in the Bible that's made up to try... Well, before I could even finish, he explodes on me, saying that no part of the Bible is made up. None! So I try to calm him down and I say, no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this part was literally made up by Jesus to try and teach a lesson of something. And of course, he blows up again. It's real, none of it's fake, just because you don't believe it, don't go shit on my Bible, I love God, it's all real! Sure. All I'm saying is that these specific parts are intentionally made up to teach a lesson. They didn't literally happen. It all fucking happened! I know in my heart that it's all real! Blah, 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 blah. So I tried to pull up on my phone the definition, thinking if he could see on Google definition it would make him realize that it isn't an opinion, that's just how it is. He refused to even look at it. He's barely spoken to me since. Either way, I thought the whole situation was funny, and that maybe someone would find some enjoyment from it. TLDR. Tried to teach my uneducated bigot boss a definition and got put on the shit list for doing it. Posted by u/doobie-doobie-doob. Today I fucked up by getting really high and drunk with my pals, ordering too much chicken and chasing a terrified woman down the road. In typical Today I fucked up fashion, this story didn't actually happen today, but last year, and I decided now might be a good time to share it. So the story starts on a typical weekend evening for a lad in their 20s, and by that I mean me and a few friends were drinking beer, smoking weed, and ordering way too much fried chicken. This is essentially the first of a series of fuck-ups that could have prevented this whole situation. But I digress. As our night was coming to a close, me and one friend, who had a fair distance to go on the underground, decided we would aim for the second or third to last train. Forget which, there's not so many going in our direction past midnight. We eventually set off and catch the train full of other drunk and high people. However, I start feeling quite paranoid. You see, before we left, we had one for the road, and that is essentially fuck up number 2, which may have prevented the whole situation. We get to our local station and we both live in opposite directions, so we say goodnight and my friend heads off on his journey home. I decide to roll a cigarette, which, in the cold of the UK with numb fingers and whilst being a mixture of drunk and high, is no easy feat. This would be fuck up number 3 that also could have prevented this fuck up. So I'm almost done rolling and I see a group of lads, who were most likely harmless. However, my state of mind and I decide they were hanging around because they were up to no good. I finish my poorly rolled cigarette and light it. And just as I light it, a girl, maybe a little younger than me, walks out of the station. She's wearing a red jacket and was quite eye-catching, and we lock eyes for a moment. I think to myself, oh, that jacket's kind of like Matilda's, and set off on my journey. This is fuck up number 4, that could have prevented the whole issue. The series of events that unfold next are just a calamity of unfathomable stupidity, and I feel bloody awful about it to this day. Although now I can finally laugh about it. So I set off on my journey and Redcoat Girl is walking briskly. It's cold, so I was also. She turns, notices me, and think I probably look threatening, because I had my hood up. So I take down my hood and try to smile, but looking back on this, it probably looked really strange. She may have noticed my red eyes back at the station too, which probably didn't help my whole demeanor. Redcoat Girl is still a bit ahead, and I am wrestling in my mind whether or not I should slow down and back off, or speed up and overtake her. Or option C, turn around and take a different route, which would be a huge detour. I stupidly decide after slowing down for a bit and giving her space, I should speed up and overtake her. She turns down the next road I also need to go down as I'm speeding up. I'm getting pretty close, maybe 10 or so feet away from her, when she looks back pretty worriedly. I think nothing of it, and I notice she's matching my pace pretty well, even speeding up a little. She's repeatedly looking back. And this is where my high brain really failed me. And I think, oh my god, what is she looking back at? So now I'm occasionally looking over my shoulder too and speeding up, wondering what the hell is chasing us both through the dark, murky, cold streets of London. The next bit is a bit of a blur of stupidity, as we both start reaching a pace a little lower than that of a light jog and looking back at the monster chasing us both. Suddenly she bolts, like a fucking rabbit across the field. This literally scares the shit out of me. I dare not look back lest this monster catch me, and I break into a run. The girl hears me running and screams. This startles me, so I let out a scream as well. All I am thinking is, oh my fucking god, it's the youths from the station or a murderer or god knows what, and it's gonna catch me. After a little while, maybe a minute or just under of running, adrenaline is pumping through my body, my mind is clear, and my brain finally turns up to the party, and I realize, oh shit, the monster the girl is running away from is me. The red-eye, hooded, dark, grotesque figure is me. I stop dead in my tracks and shout, I'm sorry! Don't run! It's okay! But she's gone in a flash, still heading in the direction of my home. I decide I should probably take the detour. I'm now paranoid about a different entity catching me, the entity being the police. I take my detour, get home with an extra 10 or 15 minutes added to my journey time, and don't sleep a wink. Just, waiting for the police, who of course never came. If my victim ever reads this, I'm so sorry. I'm just a harmless idiot. From Plasma Reuse. Today I fucked up by sending a screenshot of a text conversation with my lover to my married best friend. I, a 30-something male, was traveling abroad a few months ago. I met up with a woman and things went really well between us. We were chatting a lot on WhatsApp. One conversation was particularly juicy, so I took some screenshots and sent them to my best friend. I didn't know that was a fuck up until yesterday. My best friend lives in another state, but I just happened to be visiting him and his wife right now. His wife went on his phone to look at some pictures he'd recently taken of her, and she saw the screenshots I'd sent months ago. She thought that they were a conversation he was having with a woman, so she had approached him about it while I'm visiting them. I guess she spent the whole day in emotional agony, waiting for an opportunity to approach him about it when I wasn't with the two of them. But that only made it worse. You see, my friend had totally forgotten that I'd sent him those messages. I mean, I guess a married man doesn't care too much about my dalliances. So she was like, "What is this?" He had no idea what she was talking about. He was saying something like, "My phone must have been hacked," because he was totally baffled. Of course, she didn't believe that because it sounds like utter bullshit. I guess after a long and painful argument, he finally remembered and had to show her the text conversation between him and me to prove he wasn't full of shit. She was embarrassed and made him promise not to tell me. He immediately told me, then made me promise not to tell her he told me. Then he immediately told her that he told me. She then immediately told me that he told her that he told me. Honestly, I don't think she should be embarrassed. She wasn't snooping, and those texts would have been pretty damning. Anyways, I'm glad I didn't cause their divorce.
So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.